Shumai, welcome to Two Welsh Dads, the podcast where two proud Welsh fathers talk life, parenting, and everything in between. I'm Stefan, and I'm joined by my fellow dad and friend, Glyn, and also special guest, Jacob. This is our 26th episode, so grab a cuppa and join us as we share who we are, why we're doing this, and what you can expect from the journey ahead. Shumai, pawb.
Hi, and welcome, Croeso Jacob, to Two Welsh Dads. Do you want to start by introducing yourself?
Yeah, so good evening, guys. Thanks for having me on. My name is Jacob Guy. I am the founder of JSG Health for Dads.
Awesome. Do you want to, what is JSG Health for Dads and how did it come about, I guess? Where's it come from?
Yeah, so I started a dad's program. So I actually work for the local authority, work for the health, sport and fitness team. Started a dad's program as a result of that a number of years ago. Just come as an idea that I just decided that there wasn't really a great deal of out there for dads. Well, I didn't decide that, but I just seen that there wasn't a lot out there for dads. So I wanted to try and put a provision in place. So the program's been a real success. We've managed to work with I think we're pushing up to about 150 dads over the 9 programs. We're going into the 10th program in September, and it's just helping dads navigate fatherhood, the journey into fatherhood. So it whet my appetite then to look outside of that and start looking at something a bit different. Physical health and mental health is a big part of my life, is something I'm really passionate about. So I decided to start JSG Health for Dads, in which is the focus on dads looking after their physical and mental health, but also I've been fortunate enough to do a number of podcasts and talks and guest appearances where we've discussed the importance of male role models, masculinity. So yeah, it's taken me into a different area. So something I'm really passionate about, and supporting dads. I'm a dad myself I've got a 12-year-old daughter. So yeah, really passionate about trying to support dads. So I work with a lot of people really that work with parents. So keynote speeches, workshops, sort of informal chats, webinars, and working on programs really.
Wow, 150 dads. That's awesome, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been obviously we're going into the 10th program in September. So yeah, we've had really good footfall with the dads. It's good to see that dads are prepared to invest in themselves to become better dads.
That's awesome to see. That's what we like to see, yes. So did you start this by yourself then?
Yes, as part of my remit within the local authority, my boss challenges us to work with targeted areas. So I'd some of the guys that I work with, some work with women and girls, some work with the over 60s, some work with the physical literacy, which is the sort of starting pathway through life. So I decided that I wanted to do something with dads. So I went to I'm a hands-on dad. I've tried to be as involved as I can be. And I noticed that when my daughter was born, going to the classes and stuff, there wasn't a great deal of guys there. So I was maybe one or two others with the token dads that were there. So it made me think, is there something that can be done? Is there something out there? And then initially started off as something that had just gone through the mind. And then over time, I decided to approach my boss who was happy to support it, which was great. So 2.5 years later, we started in 2022, just coming out of lockdown, which was a really bizarre situation. So there was all sorts of guidance and guidelines. And then, we're 2026 now and going into September, and we're going into our 10th program, which has been absolutely brilliant.
Going strong as well. Awesome. So do you want to let us know which area? Did you say the Torfaen area?
Yeah, Torfaen, so sort of Cwmbran, Pontypool, Blaenavon. We have had dads from other authorities across Gwent, Monmouthshire, Newport, Caerphilly, Blaen y Gwent. We've also had dads as far as Swansea attend as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so if dads are if dads want to invest in being good dads and better dads and value their family and themselves and their little ones, it's great that they're prepared to invest their time. So it's only 2 hours a week, and it's a 10-week program free of charge. So 4 Dads by Dads has been it whet my appetite into working more with dads.
How do dads like find out? Like, say I was a dad in Swansea,
Yeah.
how would I go about like ringing you up or finding you on social media? What's the deal?
Yeah, so we've got a For Dads by Dads Facebook page.
Awesome.
A lot of the advertising is done through the Torfaen County Council comms team, Cumbrian Life, which is Ben Black, who's a bit of a blogger sort of around that area. Obviously, we use Instagram, we use Facebook. So it's most of it's done through that, and it's done through self-referrals. A number of partners, girlfriends, wives signed up, dads, and dads signed themselves up. We're working with an Iron Bevan, which has been absolutely brilliant. So they've signposted a number of dads our way because there isn't a great deal out there for dads because
Yeah.
I remember when my daughter was born, it's quite an apprehensive process, isn't it? When you bring them home and you're thinking, I don't know what
What
I'm
do I
doing.
do?
it's
Yeah.
it's a real scary process. So it's trying to break those barriers down. And us as guys, we just want to feel validated. We want to feel part of it. I'm not saying that every dad feels the same because they may not, but in my experience and talking on what I see and the dads that come to my groups and the people that I've worked with, they want to better themselves and they want to equip themselves to be better dads, really.
Awesome.
Fab.
Head of
Yeah.
the curve as well. Like if you think about these things 12 years ago, and it's been that kind of slow process and coming up with it, and then be going for almost 3 years. Yeah,
Yeah. Going
I bet
strong.
you've seen a change in that time of how maybe it's moving towards.
Yeah, it's been a weird one because obviously you sort of acknowledge that there isn't a not a great deal out there for dads, but some of my friends had had kids before, others hadn't had them yet. So you're sort of in that no man's land, which becoming a dad was the best thing. I was excited about it, apprehensive, nervous, but when it sort of popped through my mind subconsciously and then didn't think any more about it. And then when we had the opportunity and our boss challenges us to work with these targeted groups, it made me think, well, yeah, I'd like to do something. But it was a really strange time because it was COVID. It was an idea. I was working in sports development. That wasn't my remit, so I had to go off, do a lot of research, go and meet people, step out of my comfort zone.
Mm,
And thankfully, I went to a Connect 5 mental health training course, and I discussed with the tutor, Sherry Williams, who's been like a mentor to me, who signposted me to Mark Williams. Mark's doing a lot of great work with fathers and mothers as well, perinatal mental health. So I got to meet those two guys, and as a result of they've sort of been mentors to me, they've been absolutely brilliant. So when we initially started the program, there was 6-7 months, give or take, where
Yeah.
we went off and I did a lot of the research and stuff, and then we ran it initially as part of the Torvine Health, Sport and Fitness program, and then Torvine Early Years team appointed a dad support worker who worked with me on the program, and it was absolutely brilliant. So I worked with a guy called Gareth Wall, who's now gone into a different remit in the council. He was absolutely brilliant, not just a colleague but a friend as well. We bounced we're both football fans. I'm a Palace fan. He's a Liverpool fan. We'd openly talk about football, and we were both really passionate. He drove me on, I drove him on, and he stepped aside now because he's gone into a different role. So I'm working with a new dad support worker, Corey Parry. Corey's been great, and he's come in and he's been a real big help. So we're quite lucky with the Family Information Service and various agencies. They support that program. So we're very lucky because we get really good footfall for the dads, and that's something that we've always been quite proud. We've been fortunate to win awards for it as well, which has been absolutely
Fab.
brilliant. But it's great. The guys are there, and some are I wouldn't say outspoken, but are comfortable and confident to say what they think and their experiences. Other guys just want to sit there and listen. So, there's no judgment. We validate the guys and we make sure that we create a safe space so they know that there's no judgment. Gareth and I, or Gareth and Corey and myself, we're never there to judge them as dads. We're there to support them because I've got faux pas.
yeah.
Gareth has, Corey has. So, we openly talk about mistakes that we've made, and we laugh about it, because I think sometimes as dads, at times, not all the time, things have improved, but with health visitors and midwives, sometimes dads don't feel validated and part of that process.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
breaking down those barriers to sort of equip them to feel like you're a massive part of this. This child is gonna grow up with you, hopefully as the role model, and that skin on skin and bonding and all that is so important. So yeah, it's been a really good journey. It's been one that I've been proud to be a part of. Met some amazing people who've sort of helped me along the way as well with various things. So there is more men's groups out there, but not so much for dads.
Yeah. Oh, so many things have popped into my head. Yeah, so many questions to build on. But I did remember doing that. We normally start introductions and then we do a little moment for our listeners, just to, whoever's tuning in might be coming from a crazy household, something work, screaming kids, something stressful, maybe just road rage, etc. And we really just like to facilitate a little moment to, ground and help us as the people
Yeah.
doing the podcast and people listening to just like get grounded, to get the most out of it, really. So we spoke about a mindful moment, and just before we press record, you were talking about something you do before going to bed, which is like a mindful moment. So, Jacob, would you mind kind of just leading, showing what you do?
Yeah, so I normally go through my watch, and then I'll just do some breathing, normally about a minute long, probably get about 7 or 8 deep breaths in there. So just literally as I'm in bed, phone's off, everything's off, just nice deep breath in through my nose, out through my mouth. And I normally do that for probably a couple of minutes before bed.
We normally do three. So should we go
Three?
for three? Just
I think three would be better. Yeah.
three deep ones are like before bed. I love the fact you said turn off your phone, turn off any distractions, turn off the lights as well. Everything
Yeah.
just goes off. But wherever you're listening, I guess whatever you can feasibly do, whether you're driving, you might not be able to close your eyes, but get as comfortable as you can. And yeah, just take a deep breath in and then just let everything go. And deep breath in and leave it all go. And one last one. Deep breath in. And all. Ah, just let
Feeling
it.
good.
Yeah, I love
Like
Feeling
that.
that.
limber.
It just helps so much when, yeah, the craziness of the day, for us guys with doing recording is coming to an end. And yeah, it just helps make you get the most out of these things, which I think is important. But now that
Uh,
we've kind of grounded, um, I I don't know. Do you have a question, Steph? While I'm still processing all the information
oh,
I'm thinking.
well, I was quite intrigued. You mentioned about sport and the involvement of sport, Jacob, with fathers and fathers' mental health. And you mentioned potentially implementing this within your program. I was just slightly curious as to what kind of things you were to do. Would it just be encouraging fitness in general, or would you be doing any fitness classes with them?
So what we do, there's a bit of a so we do a walk and talk at the start of each session.
Nice.
Nothing too strenuous, just literally a walk around Pontypool Park before the start of the session. Gives the chance dads to have a chat to other dads, get to meet some other dads and have a conversation with guys that are on the same course that they are. Obviously, they get to know them over time. So we do a walk and talk. It's nice and light, nice and gentle. And it is a situation where we've had prosthetic leg users, we've had wheelchair users, we've had a couple of dads with medical issues, but it's nice and light, nice and flat. So research shows that we open up more side by side than face to face in a formal environment. So we do a
Good.
walk and talk at the start of each session. We get a reduced gym membership with
Nice.
the dads if they want to join. So the importance of movement and mobility as they become fathers, that they can sort of prioritize their own physical and mental health, where they get to do a gym session, nice and light, nothing strenuous. And then we also facilitate with Newport County and Newport Gwent Dragons match day tickets to the football and the rugby. So they get a chance to go over, have a burger, have a pint, go over with some of the other dads. They can take family members. They've massively supported it. So we've also got charities like Tidy Butt who do walking groups. They do mindful groups where they do cold water therapy. So we
Wow.
work with a number of the groups to signpost dads to do more stuff, because I don't know if you guys my background educationally is sport, but it's business studies as well. So I always use the Maslow hierarchy of needs, that if we're not meeting our own needs at the bottom, we can't get to the top, and vice versa. So we try to say to the dads it's not a selfish thing to prioritize yourself, to make sure that you're in the best place in your life where you can help family, friends, work colleagues. So I'm a massive advocate of the hierarchy of needs, because I think that you can implement it in anything that you do.
I love it. Yeah, it's so true as well. Everything you just mentioned about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you've got to get yourself in the right frame of mind before you can do anything, essentially. So yeah, it's wonderful to hear. I like the sound of the walking group as well. And you also
No,
mentioned the cold plunge or the cold water
Yeah, so
deep.
that's an offer that one of the guys. So we work with Tidy Butt, which are a charity. They're a real good group of guys, and they've got a couple of ambassadors like Mason Jones, which is a UFC fighter. They've got a couple of cage
Oh,
warriors. So they've got some real big hitters literally in the group. But they're amazing people, and it's a good exit route for our dads that have gone on to do different things, like a men's space where they can just go off and be themselves. It's never to all the work that we talk about is never to discredit the amazing work that mums do and the path that mums are involved in the group. But I think sometimes us as guys, we sometimes, we're prepared to put other people first sometimes, and we don't make time for ourselves because we're worried that we're going to be selfish. So it's something that we talk to the dads about. It's really important that you can't pour from an empty cup. You need to
yeah,
make sure that you're in the good mind space, good headspace to be a good dad, to be a good mum, to be a good parent, to be a good person. It all goes hand in hand. So, I actively talk when I do the talks with JSG about the hierarchy of needs. I also talk about, I use 3Ps in the JSG work as well. We persist, we perpetuate, and we prevail. So it's the
ha,
three
that's cool.
P's that you can work. Everyone always thinks of pricing, promotion, and different things like that, but it's a different set of P's that life is about.
What was it
Um,
again? Sorry, perpetuate.
we persist, we perpetuate, and we prevail.
Ah, that's
So it's a
cool, man.
cycle.
Yeah,
And it's just something that I've put my values to in the work that I do. We stick at it, we carry it on, and then we prevail, we succeed, or we get close to where we need to be. So it's something that I've always put myself forward, but I openly talk about it more in the work that I'm doing now. Um,
yeah,
Obviously, with the four dads by dads, I'm mainly a facilitator. I bring in people to come in and do the session, in which we cover various topics each week, which is great. Whereas in the JSG, I'm more hands-on. I'm the one who's delivering the talks and delivering the presentations. I'm down in Cardiff City Stadium tomorrow, actually, at the mental health and well-being show at Cardiff City Stadium, which will be nice, and I'm one of the guest speakers, which is great. It's a good opportunity for me, and I've been there as a
ambassador.
no, I've been there more as a guest to go and have a look, as part of Four Dads by Dads was the first time I went,
Yeah,
and then over time they've asked would I like to go along, which is great for me. But this
just to
work
show
with dads
people
is
work.
invaluable. We need to do more, and there's a lot of amazing people. You guys, the work that you're doing, I think is great. Podcasts give a really good platform, but I think dads just want to feel validated. They want to feel part of it, and they want to feel,
Mm.
involved somewhere. And it's finding your place when you become a dad that your life
Yeah.
changes, and it's for the better. But you do start putting, your little one takes priority, and rightly so. So I just try to make sure that, like us doing that mindful minute, dads go out, have a little walk around the block, get back into your running, or play football, or play cricket, or tennis, or rugby. Go back to watching, go down the pub with your mates, have a pint. And it's about the importance of having your own time. I don't think we're built to, it's an awkward one because you don't ever want to be selfish, and you don't
No,
want to
that's
take the
what I'm
mick.
thinking. I feel guilty. Sometimes I feel guilty if I were
Yeah.
to go
Well,
out
I
and
think
to
we all
do
do,
things.
Stefan. We all do. I
Yeah.
don't think it's just you. I think we're built to feel like that, and I think that proves that we care if we're
Yeah.
thinking that we're being selfish. Because if we didn't,
Mm.
we would just be off doing what we wanted to do. I think so. I think it's quite a. I think if you're reflecting on being a good dad and being a better dad, I'm
Mm.
sure that shit dads don't think about whether they're a shit dad or not. They think, but good dads think about whether they're being a good dad and how they can be better.
I
So
was
it's really important.
I saw a clip. I forget who said it, but it really stuck with me, which was um, the Industrial Revolution was such a success of branding for men that after that we saw like the idea of being a dad is just absent because they wanted us in the workplace. The creation of daylight savings, the creation of the working week, working hours was all created. And it was such a success because he was like, before that, do you think dads during the winter when they couldn't work just sat in the house and ignored the kids? Of course not. They were part of that unit, that familial
Family.
unit, being part of it. And he was
So
like,
the
it's
Industrial
crazy.
Revolution's to blame.
Yeah, it's crazy that just 100 years ago that was the normal. And then this branding came around and we're like, no, you need to
You
work, and
must
that's
work.
where man is. And you're just like, God, yeah. Before that, of course we were in the house
Yeah,
more
if you
because it was
look back
dark and we only had
cavemen.
candles.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's all changed though, hasn't it? Like you
Yeah,
can, like, you know, my dad was great with me. I had two amazing parents that did everything for me and my brothers. It was absolutely brilliant. But there's a lot of things I would do different because it's a different time now
yeah.
than what my dad would do. But my dad took me to football. Him and my mum got me and my brothers everywhere for sport, and sport was a big part in the family. But like things are very different. Like back in the day, mum stayed at home, looked after the kids. Dad went to work, come home, had a pint on the way home, come home, had tea, probably barely seen the kid or kids.
Yeah.
The times are very different now. And, you look at Scandinavian countries with paternity, dads are taking longer time off. They're able to be a bit more hands-on. Women, and rightly so, are in flipping massive high powered jobs where it is more feasible financially for mum to be working than it is potentially for dad. So
Mm.
situations have changed somewhat, and families can tag team on how they do it. And I think that's really good. That sort of stereotypical sort of caveman approach has sort of gone quite a
Yeah.
lot, which is obviously really beneficial to, I think, to society. I think we live in a very multicultural, diverse sort of way of the world now, which I
Yeah.
think equips everybody a lot better than what it did 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So I think it's definitely a positive.
I don't know how anyone could squeeze me into a box anymore. I don't even know what I am. Like trying to get people into the boxes, you're just like, nah, I change weekly, monthly, yearly.
Ah,
Yeah, you're absolutely
yeah.
right. Like
I think that's a good
society
thing
has
though. I
been,
think I think it's
yeah,
nice, Glenn, to do that. And I think we're not bound by what we should have to be. And I think that's what we would educate our children to be.
Yeah.
to be independent, to be strong enough to make a decision. Obviously, we don't want them too strong in the sense that they're arguing with you at the rate of knots, but you would want them to be able to fight their corner and have their beliefs and understanding. And I think this generation of kids now, there's so many positives, but there's also it's quite a scary world out there for them, isn't it? Really, it's just a different world.
Yeah, yeah, big
So
time.
scary with the internet and everyone
Yeah.
with smartphones. Terrifying time.
And I guess the other thing that I wanted to just circle back to when I was processing it, that I think is amazing to see. We're all different. You do what you can do, and I think that's really important. But when you're talking about all the different things that you can get on in Torfaen and Gwent, I think I'm moving there, to be honest, all the cool support network.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you place value on like attending, not you don't have to go and talk. You don't have to. I think there's a lot to be said that people can get out of just being present and even just like being an active listener for someone else. Like we don't put enough value on that either. That you participate and you're giving something just by turning up and listening to someone else, even if you got nothing to say that week.
Do you know what? It's a big thing as well, I think, to turn up to one of these events.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
going
Takes
through
a
the
lot of guts,
door,
guys, to walk
yeah,
through that door. Because like we have had dads, within. So the work that I do with the Four Dads by Dads is more hands-on. I am working with guys hands-on, which
yeah,
is brilliant. With the JSG stuff, I'm sort of educating people a little bit more of maybe how they can do a bit better with maybe approaching dads and things that they need to think about and
yeah,
stuff. But like being part of that and seeing what dads go through, it may be that, some of the guys, so we have WhatsApp groups with the dads, and some of the guys feeling a bit shitty today. Really looking forward to coming into the group and seeing you all. They'll have a cup of tea, they'll have a couple of biscuits. We go and have a walk, and they might, it might be that they've got a lot going on, and they've had a bad day in work, or maybe wife, girlfriend, mother to the child has been pulled into hospital because it might be something's popped up, and they want to make sure that they're okay. There might be all sorts going on, but it's just so nice that they lean on each other and talk about things because they are with a group of people that are in the same part of their life as what other people are at that time, other dads. So it might be new dads, it might be expecting dads, and when you're in that group on the WhatsApp group, you have dads posting that their little one's just been born, and the mum's
right,
okay, little one's okay. It's been absolutely madness that this little one's in the world, and they'll tell you their name and how much they weigh, and you do feel a big part of it
yeah,
yeah,
indirectly. And it's
yeah,
nice to see that because I did a piece a while ago. I won't say who it was with, but it was a little bit negative towards like fatherhood. It was just stressful, and it is a bit stressful, but it's the best thing that I've ever done. Being a dad is the best thing I've ever done. It's a bit tough at the moment, which we'll probably get onto, but the best thing I've done was have my daughter. I've loved every minute of being a dad. I would never change that. And I would happily, having a child might not be for everybody, and that's completely fine. Everybody is very different. But me becoming a dad has been the best thing that I've ever done. I've loved being part of my daughter's life. I've loved watching her grow, who she's been with sport in school, just playing with her. And I wanted to be a hands-on dad when she was born. I wanted to be involved in everything. I was at the appointments, birthday parties, taking her to school. I would do everything that I could, and I've loved every minute of that. And I know that not every dad can do that. I've done a podcast with a talking tradesman, and you talk about dads who are self-employed, and it's quite tough for those guys to be able to do a day's work where they might have to work on, they might have to do their books, they might have to ring clients and customers, and they might not get home. But we say to the dads, look, just get some skin on skin, get back, put them to bed, get them into a routine, see them before they go to school, and try and do what you can,
yeah,
because everyone's lives are hectic. And, I'm not there to criticize dads because dads are trying to do their best. They might be the breadwinner where they are not in a position where they can turn down work because the cost of living is bloody high. And people, when you have a
really
child, that
like
increases. So,
Oh,
it's
big time.
tough. It's tough for
An
parents.
expensive time, Jacob.
Yeah, very. Don't get me
Very.
wrong. We want our kids to have everything, don't we? But
Yeah,
that comes at a cost.
big time. Big time. It is a wonderful journey. And yeah, you mentioned about loving every minute of it. I would certainly agree. Being a dad is fantastic.
Yeah, it's lovely to hear you talk about being a father. And you have hit the nail on such a big head of we don't want to create these like superhuman dad idea that you have to do everything and you have to be there because everyone's situation is different. And I think it's that balance of saying, we want to move towards that kind of idea being part of it, but obviously that being part of it is different to everyone. And also we're not really there in the system to facilitate that. And it is bloody expensive right now. So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. We don't want to create more guilt in these sorts of things that, you should be doing this, you should be doing everything because yeah, it is really tough. But
Guys, it's really hard because it's a
yeah.
bit of a, I won't use the word, but it's a bit of a peeing contest at times because you're trying to have the most expensive pushchair. You're trying to
Yeah.
have these Calf Kids and muslins or Ralph Lauren
Oh,
flipping baby
yeah.
grows and God knows whatever. And when you're in those groups of NCT groups and baby groups, sometimes it is a bit of a competition trying to keep up with the Joneses. And you're
Mm.
literally financially killing yourself to try and stay involved for what? They're in those clothes, those baby grows, those muslins for how long?
2 weeks.
Maybe a couple of weeks. And when they're on to the next one, they're on to the next one. You're probably going to be putting that stuff on Vinted or eBay or in the charity shop or whatever because it comes around and goes so fast. And something that I've said to the dads and people that partners agencies I work with or when I'm doing talks is like just embrace the moment, enjoy it, just enjoy being there and enjoy giving them what you can, because once you start going down that route, you're then potentially looking at a child that thinks that they can click their fingers and get everything at will because you're throwing
Yeah.
money at everything. And it's
Yeah.
a real double-edged sword because I've said it several times. Money can't buy time. Time is the most important thing. Love is the most important thing that you can give a child, and knowing that they're safe, they're secure, and they're supported. So whether you buy them the most expensive gear, it's by the by, really. You're sort of creating, you're going to create a monster when you get further down the line.
Finish there. I think that was
Yeah.
yeah, like wow.
Yeah.
Just
Bravo.
love's the most important thing. Time is the it's so true. And we don't realize it. I think touching on that kind of idea of like keeping up with the Joneses, I always think that if you're in a group, if you're in a network that you're struggling, then you probably just got those wrong. You're in the wrong network. You've got the wrong role
Yeah.
models, and you need to have that identity of going, these I don't judge this tribe, I don't judge this network, but these aren't my people because, I just can't do this. And you just need to find a different group that suits. I think that's really important as a parent as well. Finding
Did you
your
ever get sucked into the buying loads of expensive things trend
my
then?
my thing. So I was brought up. I love secondhand. I like
Yeah,
quality and I like secondhand. I don't know where it comes from, but it's something embedded from my childhood that I don't actually like going to like
expensive
shops,
places.
expensive places and shops because I buy stuff and they break. But if you buy
Yeah,
secondhand, maybe they're older, maybe they're made better, maybe they're quality. But I love that, and I guess I'm normalizing that for my kids,
no, that's
because
good.
I'm their role model. So
Oh,
yeah, I guess that's my little hack of
I kind of like going into a charity shop and
yeah,
finding a really good bargain, and
yeah.
that to me just feels good.
It does. I love it. I really don't like buying. My biggest enemy is Mountain Warehouse because I used to buy stuff from there and it used to last like 2 months and I've stopped
Expensive
buying
place.
there. It's terrible, terrible quality. I'm
Does
sorry, we
it?
won't get sponsored by them, but
Uh,
things don't last.
is it not? I thought they were like high quality, outdoor gear?
Not for
No?
me. Everything I've ever bought from them is broken. It might just
No.
be maybe it doesn't fit my body size. Maybe it's not my
What were you
network,
doing
my
with it?
people. But yeah, that's maybe my massive thighs just snap them.
I think it's spot on what you're saying, though, guys. I think you can make your money go longer and further if you're more sort of a fay with money and a bit more switched on with it, because money will give you more opportunities. Of course, it will, to be able to maybe travel and go on more lavish,
Mm,
expensive holidays. But a kid might just love the fact that you've gone flipping camping somewhere for a few days or in a caravan holiday or
yeah.
whatever. Like we judge ourselves because of social media too much
Yeah,
on everything being a success. If you've gone to not just to Spain or Portugal or whatever, but to Dubai or to America or
Mm,
to, maybe the Caribbean, because but some of the kids will just be like, I'm boiling, I don't want to be here,
definitely.
I just want to
Yeah.
jump around in kids club. And you can do that
Exactly.
anywhere,
yeah,
absolutely anywhere.
so true.
I know.
So true. Some of the cheapest holidays have been the absolute
Yes.
best.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. 100%.
My
Ah,
parents had a caravan down Tenby when I was a kid.
yeah,
Used to go there for probably about 4 or 5 years. And before that, when I was a kid, they had a place down in Cornwall, Lou in Cornwall. Used to go there every year. Probably wasn't until I was maybe into my late juniors, early teens that foreign holidays become a thing. And
yeah,
my mum and dad worked hard, and I was happy. It didn't really bother me because, to be honest, I
Yeah.
probably wanted to be out with my mates playing football. Like that was probably what I wanted to be spending
true.
my life doing.
That is
So it didn't
very
bother
true as
me.
well.
And I think you can get quite easily. I lost a lot of myself trying to be pretentious, and thankfully I found myself again. And it's not a great position where you're just trying to be someone that you're not. I would never recommend that to
No.
anybody. You've got to be true to yourself and be
Yeah,
true
that
to
is
who you
true.
are and your values and your core beliefs in what you think you are, and be the person that you've always been, because people love that person. They don't love the person that you're trying to
So
be
true,
someone
isn't it?
else.
Be
It's true.
authentic. People love
Yeah.
Plus,
authenticity, isn't it?
it's
No matter
exhausting
what
as
it
well.
is.
Have you tried acting and pretending to be somebody you're not? It takes a lot out of you, and at the
Yeah,
end of the day, you'll just be exhausted with it.
It's
So,
the term of Disney parenting as a parent, isn't it? You just throw money at it and just let it go easy, which means that you're going to create a monster in the long term because you're not going to sustain that. So you
yeah,
need to be careful when you do that. And it comes up quite a lot I read quite a lot on it and stuff about the Disney parenting and just giving your child everything. And it's probably, listen, I'm no expert. I try and do my best for my daughter. That's all I can do. And that's what I stick to, my beliefs and my understanding. And yes, she gets things and I take her out and spoil her to certain extents, but she's also got to understand the value of money and the way that life is. So, and I will always believe that. I will always maintain that. It might not go down well at times, but
no, honestly,
I'm
you're,
the parent. So
you're teaching her good values for when she grows up, and she'll respect money and how to use it correctly and when to use it, and the true value of money and the true value of family life and the love.
love is the most important thing, guys. Love and time. And we say
Yeah.
to the dads, make that time, get skin on skin, spend time with your kids, take them down the park, kick a ball around. You don't have to be good at football. You don't have to be the most athletic and do whatever, but be in a place where you can move and you've got mobility, where you can take those kids out in the field and they will love you for it. They will love every minute of being in the outdoors, plenty of fresh air, enjoying themselves, meeting new people, playing in the park. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be sport. It can just be just running around like an absolute lunatic,
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
you
It's a,
know?
And
it's a bit of it's so good for you as well. I love acting. I love having kids because it lets you remember to be a kid
your
again and how much fun
yeah,
it is.
yeah, your
But
childhood.
it's a bit of self-discipline to be able to totally switch off and give yourself to that moment and to them.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's
Yeah.
so much fun. When you get into the groove of things, you could just be a kid again and just find yourself kicking a ball around for hours and just going, oops.
playing Legos as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just whatever. Yeah, it's whatever works for you. Like my daughter would go, "Oh, Dad, can we go to Ninja Warrior?" Yeah, no problem. I'm in there with her. I'm not a parent who's going to be sat in the cafe. I'm flipping running around like a lunatic with her. I love
Ah,
it. I think
Ninja
I
Warrior is
think it's
awesome. I
great.
love Ninja Warrior. It's awesome. It is loads of fun. You know what I love
Ice
doing as
skating as
well?
well. Get out on the ice.
Ah,
Love that.
yes.
I'll have a go at it all. I'll get involved in all of it as long as I can.
yeah.
My son, he's got a Switch and we play Mario Kart. And I just have the best time with him, you know?
Yeah,
Reminds me of playing with my brother on the old Nintendo 64. So yeah, amazing memories.
brilliant.
True. Enjoy those moments because yeah, they soon disappear. I bet. Just
They
when they're like,
do.
"No, I'll go with my mates now." Like,
Yeah. Oh
Yeah, you're
no.
not cool enough anymore, are you?
yeah,
No.
You're not
yeah,
like,
that's
yeah,
it.
that's it. And
Like,
that's I know I remember when I went to the comp, I was exactly the same.
yeah,
So my mum and dad, it was like, yeah, drop me off by here around the corner. Yeah, pick me up back around there. And yeah, like, and they were a bit like, because I had two brothers, they were like, they'd seen it all before. And we're like, yeah, right. So it's never.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's so true. And
No.
digress slightly, but well, I got a well, he's nearly 3, but when we kick a ball around, even though it's a football, every day after picking her up from Kelp before we pick up his sister from school, he's like, "Oh, let's go and play football." But every time, and I don't know where he's got it from, he picks up the ball and he throws it like a rugby ball. And I'm like, "Where's
Ah,
he got
natural
this
born
from?"
rugby player.
I know, it's like literally, oh, and you're like, "Why?"
Wow. Did he pick that up off you? Or maybe watching rugby?
He's never, to my knowledge, watched rugby or seen or held a rugby ball. So if it's
Oh, well,
some
that's
kind of
cool though. I
genetic,
feel like this could be a core memory for him.
maybe, but it's so crazy to, yeah. Anyway, digress.
Hmm.
So important.
Yeah.
Enjoy those moments. Enjoy
You
those.
will always digress, guys, because there's so many things that trigger the mind when you talk about parenting and kids and all that, and then you go off in so many tangents. That's why my podcasts are always so long.
Sit in, guys. Sit in.
That's cool.
We're in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
Oh, but I think I've skirted around the serious part. I know you mentioned earlier that we'd get onto it. The forget what you described it as, but your lived experience and that precious time, I guess, is even more precious to you because if I'm right in saying you separated and you
Yeah,
co-parent, is that the right words?
yeah, and yeah, and not really co-parent. It's yeah, like listen, relationships don't always stand the test of time.
Mm,
Unfortunately, well,
Mhm.
you know, um, I don't get to see my daughter as much as I'd like to see her. There's a court order in place, but it's not particularly followed. So my daughter's able to just choose what she wants to do. And currently, coming back to spend time with her dad, where she grew up with for 12 years, has diminished because I need to drive down to West Wales every other weekend to build a relationship. So if it's raining, a restaurant, a cafe, a pub is great for food for an hour. But
mm,
when it's raining and whatever, and you've got no base, it's really hard. So I've tried, so she moved down with her mum down to West Wales, which is 2.5 hours from me here in Chepstow. And obviously you've got the traffic and stuff. So yeah, relationships don't work out sometimes. And, that's not to say that people can't co-parent. They can, people do, and it works. Unfortunately, in the position that I'm in, I find it extremely hard to co-parent because um, there was examples where mum had made some serious allegations of domestic abuse and I wasn't looking after my daughter correctly and all this stuff, which was openly said to solicitors, was never pursued. But it was enough where I could have lost my job. I could have lost my job. I coached my daughter's football team. I could have been stopped coaching. Kids coming over to my house, which they regularly did with my daughter. It's really tough to go from having a child that you live and breathe and spend all your time with and do all the things that you can. Do I try and be the best parent? 100% I do. Do I get it right all the time? No, I don't. But I've always been a parent. I've always been a hands-on parent. And obviously then when the relationship breaks down, it then goes to 50-50 shared care, which was the original agreement, which, you know, they were living in around this area, which worked. She would come to me. And then unfortunately over time, I found out that mum was looking to move down to West Wales, which wasn't discussed with me. So unfortunately, I had to go through a court battle, which cost a lot of money. And then eventually CAFCAS got involved in the courts, which I found, I can only speak as I found it an absolute waste of time. It seemed that they put so much emphasis on potentially me being a bitter ex-husband, and that the needs and the wants of the child, they need to listen to the child, what she wants. But I think it was sold to my daughter that the only option was she either moved down west or stayed here with me, but wouldn't be with her mum, which obviously she wanted to be with her mum. Ideally, I wanted 50-50 shared care.
Yeah.
And that was what worked. And then over time, through the end of the holidays before she moved, she started spending less time with me, and it was put in the court order after that mum wasn't to provide additional activities on my weekends, because my daughter wasn't wanting to come home when it was my weekends, because she was taken from the beach and whatever to come back with her dad, and she didn't want to do so. It wasn't an ideal situation, in which I had to regularly, it was a real tough one. And then obviously I went to court. I wasn't the most comfortable and confident with it, I'll admit that.
Yeah.
Because I felt CAFCAS had the thing that stupidly, from my experience, I maybe said too much about what I thought. That I thought that there was coaching, there was manipulation, there was bribery, God knows whatever. And then that didn't go down too well, I don't think, with the CAFCAS officer, me speaking what I seen and what I thought. And then it just went to a point where they decided in November last year that my daughter was able to move 2.5 hours away down to Pembrokeshire. So the agreement was I would have her every other weekend. Fine. Well, it wasn't fine, but it was okay. This is where we are. I would have her on a Friday, pick her up from Port Talbot on a Friday and drop her back to Port Talbot. But if my daughter was to decide that she wanted to go back to West Wales, I just had to take her back. So it's completely undermined my parenting. So then mum was regularly, oh, well, if you want to come home, come home. So regularly ringing and texting. And it was never really settled. Christmas, she barely came over, but you could see that it was getting dropped off later, going back earlier, and it was getting harder. And for those first 2 or 3 weeks of her moving away was a real struggle. And I'm not, I know that there's dads out there who've had it far worse than me. But I knew the end game would be that eventually she wouldn't come back. And CMS contacted me, regularly pay my CMS every month. And when she's back with me, I'll take her out for food. So I've got, in the court order, I've got parental responsibility. I have a live-in order, which means I can take my daughter abroad. And I've got shared care, not 50-50, because she lives with her mum. So I was sort of like living with that. But then I knew that it was coming to weekends, and then she went away to America in February, and since then has decided not to come back, doesn't want to come back on the weekends, which I'm fighting a losing battle. Had to seek legal advice. So this whole thing about the voice of the child, 100%, it is important that the child has a voice, but we've had a really good relationship, and then to have to now be told by the mum, and now more recently my daughter, that I need to build this relationship back up, and it can only be built by going to West Wales every other weekend to see her for a couple of hours, has been a real struggle. So I do struggle with the co-parenting because I don't think it's being played how it should be. I don't think the opportunities, I know that you guys will know, obviously more so you, Glyn. My daughter's in a private school. I don't really have much bearing on that. I've had to call the school and say, look, I'm a parent. Can you put me on the parent mailing list? Can I be involved? Head teacher's been absolutely brilliant there. Went down to watch her show. More recently, went down to watch her other show. And it's I've tried to be as hands-on and be involved. I text her every day. I try and call her. Sometimes she answers, sometimes she doesn't. And more recently, it's been a real tough gig, you know. And I'm not pleading a victim here, but it's really hard when you go from being involved in your child's life. So God knows what people down West Wales probably think, that I'm a stay away dad who's not interested. I'm very much interested, but there's only so much that I can do. So the current order at the moment isn't being followed, in which she's, you know, if you look, guys, with your children or child going to school, it's not an option. If they're ill, okay, they stay off. But it feels like there's no push to come back. It's a way out. Well, don't go. That's how it feels. And then regularly, not regularly, more recently, my daughter has openly said to me, you don't make me feel comfortable when I'm with you. When I come down, you you've bought me clothes that make me feel like a boy, bearing in mind she chooses all this. And I find it just staggering, some of the stuff that she's come out with. So being a parent, trying to be involved, has completely undermined me as a parent. She recently had a bump on the head. I found out the next day when I was called at 6 o'clock in the morning, because mum assumed that daughter had told me. My daughter's now recently come off WhatsApp. So I'm barely involved really with what goes on, which is really tough when you've been involved. You know, I had to go cap in hand to a primary school because I was a parent helper. I was a football coach within her team. She moved down west and stopped playing for the team, was put in a transfer straight away. So as soon as she moved down west, she turned her back on basically not so much spending time with me, didn't really want to bother with all the friendship groups from here, and most importantly, my family. So they haven't really seen her for since January. And this whole sort of, you know, this isn't going to stop, it's going to carry on. I knew the moment the court order come out, I knew it was going to be abused. It's not been ideal, so I've had to go through my solicitors again to look at an enforcement order, which is going to cost thousands. But I love my daughter. I want to spend time with her. And don't get me wrong, there's some dads out there who don't want to be involved in their kids' lives, don't want to pay CMS, don't want to be in. I want to be involved. I pay CMS, in which CMS contacted me a few weeks after she didn't come back, asking me for more money because mum had said the situation had changed. So it's a real tough one, because I know more so you, Glyn, obviously being further down west, there was an incident in Milford Haven where there was a stabbing at a school. There was a stabbing at a school in Ammanford. More recently at Tenby and the train station. So I've tried to educate my daughter. Look, unfortunately, these things are isolated incidents. They don't happen a lot. If anything pops up, tell your mum, tell your teacher, tell me, you know, trying to be there. Oh, you're scaremongering. You shouldn't be discussing those things. And it's like, I can't do anything. So it's a real tough one at the moment. Obviously, I won't go into huge detail because we're on a podcast. It's not the time and the place. But it's a real tough one when you're trying to do your best for your kid and to be involved. And currently now, she's giving me lists of things that she needs and wants for when she comes here, but now refuses to come. So I've tried everything. I've tried to go down to West Wales, and you know, it's good. It's good 2.25, 2.5 hours from here on a good run.
Yeah.
So it's really tough. And don't get me wrong, there's some parents out there who can co-parent and they work hand in hand and it works brilliant. And it does. Absolutely great. But I gotta be fair, it's been really tough when the accusations were made and the things that were said when you're with someone for a long time and you know that that's not true. Thankfully, work parents around here and coaching the girls teams and stuff, people know me, and that was the thing that, I know it sounds a bit traumatic, but probably saved me from potentially being that guy who's wandering around town going, oh god, have you heard about him? And this, like, and everyone knows it seems to be a bit of a prereq that you can just chuck this in. And Kafkas was an absolute shambles. The court system was a shambles. They'd sort of just gone down the pathfinding route, which was the quickest way to get in and out. And it costs thousands of pounds to do. So you can see I'm too bloody stubborn to give up. I will never give up. I will do everything to be involved in my daughter's life, whether it's to text her every day and whatever. But from a sustainability point of view, I shouldn't have to be driving back and forth West Wales every other weekend. So it is a real tough one at the moment. Hopefully common sense will prevail, but you can't reason with unreasonable at the moment. And that's where I am. So co-parenting can work, and unfortunately relationships do fall down. But that's not to say that parents can't come together and work together. Just in my situation at the moment, it isn't. And it's really, really tough, especially when she's 2.5 hours away and people are, you get advice, don't you? I regularly get texts off the mum and I show them to my friends. It's like, this is the type of nonsense that I'm having to deal with. Can't bring her because I've got this on and you need to go through me. It's really tough because I try not to, because the messages are just to antagonize, and I don't need it. And then you're then looked at the aggressive guy by answering something back that's taken in complete out of context. So I don't go through it. I've taken myself out. It took me a while because I've always tried to articulate, like, well, hang on, I need to say what I need to say here. I need to express my feelings, and no, that's not right. But I've stopped now, and I will never give up. I will keep fighting. But I know dads who've been in better positions. I know dads who've been in worse positions. So I'm sort of at the moment in the middle, but I do feel really undermined as a parent that I can't actually be involved in my daughter's life anymore day to day, and it's really, really tough. And when people go, "Oh yeah, you've got your daughter, you're babysitting tonight, are you? What, babysitting my own child?" No, funnily enough, no, because she's my daughter. So I would, and you guys will have that. You're seen as a dad sometimes as being the babysitter, and I find it quite staggering that we've moved forward. But yeah, I dread to think what people think, because they probably think that I'm a, and this isn't pulling any kind of race, religion, sexual orientation, whatever. But, sometimes when you're working with dads and you sometimes see the drop off in black dads, mixed race dads not being around as much, and it being a stereotypical thing that they just go. That's not something that I've ever equip myself to do. I will never give up on that kid. And, whether I've got to text her to wish her good morning or good night or whatever, I will always do that. And it's, oh, well, why aren't you coming down to see her for an hour or two? It's like, but I shouldn't have to. It should be that we meet in Port Talbot. I take her out for the day and we do. And I've even offered, come up, we'll go out for the day around here. You can spend it with me. We can go and see grandma. We can go and see your friends. We can do whatever you want. And then Saturday was, the car's going in. So I don't know what going in means, whether that's garage or whatever, but it was a Saturday afternoon. So I've just got to a point now where I've just had to, for my own sanity, step back. And I'm delivering things to these guys and the importance of fathers and all that lot. But, I've had to take time out for myself to come back. And, I'm a sportsman, I'm competitive, I'll never give up. But it's tough. It is tough. So I do feel for any dad who's going through that position. I never thought I would be in that position myself. But, relationships do work. Co-parenting does work. I'm not here to slate people and say they don't. They do work, and they can work. Relationships work. Being in a long-term relationship where you've got children, you've got a home, you're married, you're settled, it's brilliant. I would encourage any dad, work through things, try and find a resolution. Okay, if it's dead in the water and it's not working, yes, the only way is to do that. But it's tough then when you're co-parenting, when you just feel that my daughter will stay at her friends' houses and family members and stay with them when mum's still commuting back and forth work to Newport. But I'm not able to have her come and stay anymore because I need to build this relationship. And as I told you, my parents had a place down there, so I know Tenby pretty well. And I've tried to explain to her, look, you don't go to school there. You don't do any sports around there. So you showing me Tenby is no different to you showing me Swansea, Porthcawl, Carmarthen. It's no different. So I'm trying to explain that we can't move forward because there's this thing with you. And she even said to me the other day, Dad, Mum keeps telling me that she's anxious to spend time with me in text messages. So it's all written for that reason. and she'll openly say, she said to me when I went down to, so I took her to for food in Narberth because she's in a school not far from there, and and she said, "Dad, I'm not anxious. I'm not anxious to spend time with you. I just want to stay here at the moment." And it's like, yeah, but your life is, you can't just turn your back on your life where you've had. It's like it's done. And we had problems with that. I go down and watch the show, and then his mum's messaging me the day before, well, if you've arranged something, we've made plans. So, and I was like, okay, no problem. I'll watch the show and I'll drive 2.5 hours back. And that's fine. Like if I, and then, oh, well, I'll change the plans now so you can have her. And it's silly games that's putting a child in the middle, and it's just really frustrating. So I take my hat off to anybody who is working it and doing all those things right. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, that is great. But that's not the position that I'm in at the moment. So yeah.
I hear your pain,
Oof.
buddy. That is such a
Yeah, sounds
complex,
really, really hard.
yeah, really complex.
You can't put a child in the middle of making some really big decisions, because
Yeah.
the realistic thing is, I can imagine my dad's face when I go, "No, I'm not doing that." He'd be like, "You are," and that would be it.
Yeah.
But I can't do that anymore because I'm just a bloke who's in a life that is called dad, but isn't really able to make any decisions anymore, which I find absolutely staggering that they thought that this was okay. Don't get me wrong, the court order's in place, and I did think, yeah, this might work. But within a week or two, you knew that it wasn't working. And then as of sort of February time, come back from Florida for 2 weeks. Yeah, we need to build up a relationship. And I'm like, but there's been nothing happened for us to fall out. There's been no choice words.
Yeah.
And I feel as a parent, I'm tiptoeing around because I'm not allowed to address anything. I'm not allowed to voice my concerns of, just be careful what's going on. And these things happen everywhere, but they don't happen in Birmingham, Bristol,
Yeah,
London, Manchester anymore. They happen everywhere. So it's just being a bit streetwise. My mum and dad would tell me anything as a kid, not to scare me, but just like keep your wits about you. If anything pops up, tell me. It's all I've ever done. And you're sort of made to feel like you're not allowed to have those conversations. So it's, yeah, I feel a bit, well, I don't, not a bit, I feel completely undermined, and I understand why. And it's not been something that I'm in. It's been really taxing and it's been bloody hard. But there's
Mm.
some dads who are like maybe not as resilient, who've gone, I can't deal with this. This isn't, suicide rates, when you look into it,
Yeah.
finances, loss of jobs, child access. These are big things that are making guys feel that they don't want to be here anymore. And that's really sad. That's really sad to see. And obviously, where I'm from, the Severn Bridge is a hotbed for, unfortunately, jumpers, because it's an easy way out. But once you let go of that railing, you've gone. You ain't coming back, because that tide in there isn't, is not nice to anybody. The strongest swimmer, whatever. So I do feel for guys that are in that position, but you've got to lean on family, you've got to lean on friends, partners, girlfriends, wives, same-sex relationships, whatever it may be, to navigate you through the system, because life goes on. You meet someone else, you get new hobbies, you do new things, and you challenge yourself, which is what I've had to do, because I popped to Andy's Man Club, because I was lost for a few weeks. I didn't know what to do. I was like throwing myself into everything where I
Mm.
didn't know what to do. I didn't know. I was, and work colleagues, friends, family, you know loved ones would just like, look, you need to slow down a bit here, because you need the hierarchy of Maslow, hierarchy of needs, and pouring from an empty cup. I wasn't following that. I was running on empty, but I just needed to keep busy.
this is
So it's,
fresh,
yeah, it's tough.
really, isn't it? This is something you're going through really right now, and it's something that's ongoing. It's a lot, and you covered so much. Yeah, it's a lot to go through. I can only imagine the roller coaster ride. that
There's no end in sight though at the moment, guys. That's the problem. There is. So I've had to reach out to, I've had to reach out to legal and have a look at that. And I'm not in here to go through personal bits and whatever, but it's to give a snapshot of what's going on, because otherwise you're not bitter because you're fighting for someone. You're not bitter because you're angry of the situation. And that's what really frustrates me, is that, like, you do, as dramatic as it sounds, it feels like your bloody heart's ripped out when I can't just, walk up the field with her. And football was our thing. I played football at a high level. It's been a massive part of my life. Lived in Swansea with it, travelled around with it, which has been absolutely brilliant. My daughter's a top footballer, was playing for district here, playing for Newport County, and then the agreement was she was going to stay here playing, which a team won the league actually on Sunday. They were a better team with her in it because she's a bloody good footballer. She's a good sports person who's got natural ability. And as soon as we moved, it was a transfer request had come through. And then more recently signed up to cricket and netball. So she's got responsibilities every weekend that means that she doesn't want to come back. And that's another way out. So, yeah, it is a little bit frustrating. I don't know where it's going to go from here in the sense of from the enforcement order, but I will be exploring every avenue because I have to, because I don't want time to elapse with my daughter don't think I gave a shit, because I have. And I've done everything possible to keep that. So me working in the environment I work in with dads and stuff's really motivational to me. It gives me a purpose to support people. And, I don't always go into as much detail as this. Obviously, when I'm presenting and stuff, that's not something that I go into. But podcasting, when you talk about, I did one with the From Rock Bottom podcast, and we talked about, what happens when a relationship breaks down. And yeah, it does all change. I've had to explain to my daughter when she rung me up asking me, was I going to take her mum back to court, which is, I don't know how a 12-year-old's got wind of that, but she had. I had to try and explain, because I was like, listen, I'm really proud that you've moved down there, you've settled, you're happy, you're doing sport, you've made friends, you're doing great. I'm proud of you. I just want to see you on my weekends. I've always, and I regularly message her, if you ever want to come back here, there's a home here for you. There is a home here. You could come back every other weekend. You could come back permanently if you wanted to. But I do, regardless of the situation, both parents in a kid's life, they will thrive far more with both parents involved. So for me, I've tried to give her that stability, saying, look, I'm not going to move you back here, because that's what she's under the impression, that I'm going to try and fight for her to bring her back here. I'm not. She's happy. She's settled. She doesn't need the upheaval. So as long as I seen her on the weekend and extended periods in the holidays, the Easter holidays, she refused to come back. And it's really tough. So if there's any guys out there, I really do empathise with them, because it is tough.
Is why I invited you on. So thank you very much for kind of sharing what a tough thing you're going through. And I know the stats show that other couples are going through this. Like, I looked it up, 41% of marriages end in divorce before silver anniversary. So 25 years, assuming that, let's go traditional model, and they have kids a few years um, after getting married, then yeah, a lot of, well, nearly, so 41, nearly half of the marriages end in divorce while the children are still children, like sub 18, which, is a massive thing. Yours is super complex. And I feel like the only way we can break this down, because I know you want to come on and you want to kind of share your experience and advice for other dads, is break it down as to like logistics about what to kind of expect. Because I feel like further, if I was going through this, there'd be a lot of anxiety as to what's going to go on, what do I need to do if it goes to the extreme. And then logistics and feelings. I feel like those two categories. So if we start on,
Guys, listen to this, right? I'll put this on you before we go into this.
yeah,
So
go
a
on.
court claim would be that we act in the best the child's best interests. The reality is 1 in 5 UK children now will live without their father.
Wow.
Wow. It's mad, isn't it?
And that's Fathers Matter UK, I think that is. So yeah, it's one of those ones that's a horrible position to navigate. I was very much 50-50 shared care with my daughter, 50-50 equity on the house sale.
Yeah.
You keep your business, I keep my pension. Didn't have 50-50 shared care with my daughter. I did for a short time. 50-50 equity on the house, yes. Which I lived in on my own with my daughter because mum moved out. But regularly came to the house for things.
Yeah.
To a point where I had to contact the solicitor that she was turning up at the house unannounced and uninvited and then making claims when she was still, so the solicitors had to ask her no longer to attend the property. So these things were laughable in a lot of ways, but they're not funny when it's you, because the just how mad that you can just say what you want and do what you want, and no one, the courts don't really look into it. He said, she said, no, we're not going to look into that. We'll make a decision based on a woman who hasn't checked out her school, how involved I was at school. She just went on the fact that I was frustrated, angry, and annoyed at the situation, which I was. But I'm a 6'3" mixed race guy who was quite passionate about what he thought, and I just don't think that went in my favor. But I would always advise dads to get the best advice that you can, whether it's citizens advice. I lost 30% of my pension because of as a result of this. And yeah, unfortunately, relationships do fall apart. They do. And if you tried your best, you can't do any more than that. We tried and it just didn't work out. But it's mad that people are, oh, I thought you, Jacob, was seeing somebody else. I was like, no, the relationship, we split up. The relationship broke down. We tried marriage therapy. It didn't work. And we weren't going forward. And I think we were both better off, which is completely understandable. But our aim then and our objective would have been to be the best co-parents. And I'll openly admit I struggle to co-parent, because it's like as if I don't do as I'm told and I'm not doing what I'm asked to do, that I'm being difficult and I should just do as I'm told to be involved.
It's hard enough
And
to co-parent when you're married sometimes, so I can't
yeah,
imagine how difficult it is when
it's
it's
really
that.
difficult,
Yeah.
guys. But I'm not the only one that's going through this. There's going to be lots of guys that are going through it. And I hope that guys are resilient and robust enough to roll with the punches, because there is some not very nice parts of it, because the divorce took a while to go through and stuff. So it is tough, but I feel so much happier. My life has gone on. You meet someone else and you go, you do different things in your job. The job's steering me all over the place, and you meet new friendship groups, or you go back to old friendship groups that you were involved in. Sport's been a big factor, so I chucked myself into bloody CrossFit and high rocks and hit classes and coaching football and stuff and running. So that is the thing that's kept me sane. But there's days, guys, where I'm out and I'm maybe like 7-8K out, and I'm thinking, I want to go home. I'm done. I haven't got the motivation to finish this, because I got a million and one things going through my head. Because when I come home, I got to do this, I got to do that, especially when I was going through all this. But I'm lucky that I've got amazing people around me. So but not everyone's got that. So it is a real tough one. But I would, my advice would be citizens' advice, and lean on people for their expertise, people who've been through it. I was speaking to a lad at football who's going through it, and he was like, mate, what happened with you? I was like, my situation's a little bit different to yours, but it's quite easy sometimes for blokes just to move out and just be like, oh yeah, he walked away and he didn't want to know, and he doesn't want to do this. But sometimes it is a bloody hard situation to navigate for everybody. So yeah, I'm never like, I'm not putting that as a downer, because I work with loads of blokes. Mums and dads are together, the emotions run high when you have a child, sleep deprivation and whatever. But they're made for each other. They're made to be together for the rest of their lives, and that is absolutely brilliant. And I would always encourage mums and dads, same-sex relationships, whatever, see what you can do with a relationship and see if you can make it work. But if it's got to a point where you can't, it's better to be happy and be out of it than it is to fight, just be fighting and being we had our fallings out, and I'm sure that there was times where I was a bit of a sulker and a stropper. I'll be the first to admit that, but that's not the basis of making ridiculous accusations that someone could lose their job, their reputation, they could lose everything as a result of that. There's so much more I could say in detail, and I won't. But you, the best thing that I say is you keep fighting a good fight. That's all you can do. And the dad's work is huge. It's a big part of me. It's a big part of what I believe in, and it's a motivation for me to do better, to help people. And then that's not just dads who are going through a shit time. That's dads who are dads who might have the best supporting wife in the background who's helping, which is absolutely great. So relationships do work. Some don't. That's how it is.
You
I
mentioned,
guess, sorry. No, I was just going to say it's. I think at the end of the day, it's important to consider the child and what's best for the child in the long run. And I know it's tricky when perhaps, well, I don't know. It's good that we yeah, putting the child first. I would say that's the most.
100%. And so they should be, because they're children,
Yeah.
but they're also very impressionable of what they're told. And so that's something that, you've got to be. I've tried to be flexible and accommodating where possible, and I still will continue. I won't give up, and hopefully things will take a turn, and things will improve. So yeah, all we can do is just make sure that she's all right. She's thriving. She's doing well, which is brilliant for me. It's a shame that I don't feel part of it, because when she has come here, like, get your homework out. Come on, we'll do your homework. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, and I'd love to sit there struggling with her homework because it's above my station at times. But you'll give it a go, won't you? So all we can do is try and be our best, can't we? That's all we can do.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
I guess you kind of touched on, I kind of chopped it into logistics and feelings, and I help citizens advice for the logistics,
Yeah.
and then therapy, counseling for those feelings. You
Yeah.
mentioned you
Yeah.
tried couples counseling, that
Yeah,
sadly didn't work
speak
out.
to somebody.
Yeah,
Invest in yourself. It's tough, because you might sometimes the best course of action isn't going down the pub and having 5 pints and watching a football and dismissing everything, and or talking to a mate who's a great friend but doesn't want to listen because he's got his own stuff going on, or fear of. I grew up in an environment where my mum and dad were together, so I never wanted my daughter to be from a broken family, and probably tried at times
yeah,
that was maybe my focus, and the reality in the end was that it just wasn't to be. But yeah, feelings play a big part in it, because you sometimes can be made to feel a bit guilty of you're doing wrong for that child because you're putting your foot down and you're fighting your corner, and that's something that is really tough. But you've got to seek advice, but you've also got to look after yourself in that, and whether it's speaking to somebody formally or is speaking to a friend or whatever. I do think is safety in numbers. You sometimes you can get coping mechanisms, strategies. I use acceptance commitment therapy is something that I use more. Some people use CBT, some people use mindfulness, some people scream into a flipping pillow. It's just whatever works for you.
yeah.
Is
What
going
can
out on the football pitch and taking your anger out on the ball, but then sometimes, unfortunately, your anger might be a bit too much that you end up taking it out on someone and getting a situation that you don't want to be in because you're being a bit of an idiot. You've just got to manage your emotions. Emotions are hard to manage, especially when you've got a lot going on. But there's lots of people out there. It's better that you navigate those feelings and talk to somebody than try and fight it on your own, because you're fighting a losing battle then.
Yeah,
Oof,
so
wow,
many.
you've covered so much. Gosh,
There is so much to unpack there. I feel like we're gonna have
there
to
is,
have
isn't
you
there?
on. And my final thought is that I I truly would love to have a time machine, but maybe we'll have you on in like 10 years' time to see where you're
Yeah.
at, see what's changed. Because oh, when you're in the heat of the moment, and like you said, you can't see the end of the
Mm,
tunnel, there's no end in sight. That is the worst feeling. And I wish you all the best.
No,
yeah.
Um,
thanks, guys. I think the work that you guys do and the platform that you're putting out there and the mixture of experiences and backgrounds that people are doing, I think is great. And people do value a podcast because they get a chance to sit in the van or sit, in the gym or whatever, out walking, and they can listen. And some people might not resonate with me, my story, and whatever. They might not, and
yeah,
that's completely fine. But
yeah,
some people may, and there's lots of things that is out there more for blokes now, more for dads, and obviously there's a lot of men's mental health groups out there and stuff, which is absolutely brilliant. And there seems to be more stuff out there to help people now, which is great. And you know, there's also great things out there for mums as well and women,
yeah,
because however much we talk about mental health in men, we also the importance of mental health in women and making sure that they're okay. Postnatal depression can happen to a male or a female. It's more common in females than it is in males. And obviously mum carries the baby for so long. So, that attachment and stuff, it can be really tough for mum. So, hopefully everybody who may be struggling can get the support that they deserve and need. But also just finding that physical thing in your life where you don't have to run the London Marathon, you don't have to play in the Premier League or represent your country in rugby or cricket or whatever, but going out and having the knockabout with your mates and releasing those endorphins and getting the blood flowing will help in a situation of trouble.
Stress. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Exercise is like such a wonderful thing and underutilized and underrated as well. So yeah, I would agree.
I feel like we have covered so much, and there's probably
Mm.
so much more that we could discuss. But I
I told
want,
you it would be a while.
oh, well, you've just unpacked so many things. Like,
Yeah,
I
we'll have
want
to
to
have you on
talk,
again, I think.
like, there's so much more, even just your experience. Like, you touched on racism and the system, and there's a whole podcast there that I'd love to talk to you about.
I
And
don't. Yeah. I don't. I'm not somebody. I'm fortunate in my life with the. I haven't experienced a great deal of racism. I'm not saying I should have or shouldn't. But like sometimes the stereotypical approach of a black
the
dad
system,
who's
yeah,
just left and whatever is quite easy. People might think that it's a joke to stereotype, but it's a real life
yeah,
thing. And that was one of
Mm,
my biggest worries. Is like, oh God, people going to see that I'm my daughter's dad and that I just turn up to this and that and something else. But it's awkward and uncomfortable sometimes where you've got to go and watch something that's not my weekend, and she's not asking me at the moment to go
mm,
on not my weekend. So to rock up there, she could. Oh yeah, and just carry on. I don't really know what it would be. So I've always respected that because it's not my weekend.
yeah,
So I think it's quite mindful that, sometimes people see someone before they actually know the facts. So I think
yeah,
it can be stereotypes can be quite painful for some people.
yeah,
So it's definitely something that, I'm proud of who I am, where I'm from and what I do. So, I will be as a hands-on dad as I can be. So, I will always be here. I will always fight. And I've always said to her, I won't be going anywhere. I'm here. If you need me, text me, FaceTime me, whatever.
yeah.
So it's really important. But I think that these topics that you guys are hitting, it's like a Pandora's box. You could go flipping anywhere.
Absolutely.
yeah,
But
yeah,
you've opened up, you've shared your feelings, your perception of like what's going on right now. And those, even if they're different situations or actions, those feelings are universal. So yeah, thanks very much for sharing those those really powerful feelings. You really made me feel tonight, and
Yeah.
I know we want to end. Maybe not so much. I feel like it'd be wrong to do an affirmation, but maybe an appreciation. How does that feel as an ending? Something that we're appreciative about going on in our lives right now. Just to end on something.
Oh, guys, there's so many positives, like having a child is a positive, being involved in their life. Yeah, I might not be as much, but I'm still proud to be a dad. That will still always be a huge part of my life. So yeah, it's really important that we've got to be positive, haven't we? We've got to be, that's what gives us hope.
Yeah.
That's what gives us belief. So everything should be a positive. And we've got to look at it that the glass is half full, not the half empty.
That's
And
the
I
way.
think that's how we've got to approach it and think, tough times call for tough people. And life isn't always like that. We do go through some bumps in the road, and we will always come out the other side, and that will be how it'll be. So I will always be positive.
I'm
We will
loving
always
the
look at it.
positivity.
Is there
This is
is there a
good.
specific thing that happened today or this week that you just because mine when I was thinking was as an example is as you were talking, I became so appreciative of my support network. They've really stepped up this week, and I don't think I realized it until you were talking, how much I'm lucky and blessed to have people who I can lean on and step in when I just, I couldn't be in two places at once. And I'm really lucky. I'm really appreciative about my family who's really stepped up this week.
Yeah, it's really important. Partners, wives, girlfriends, whatever it may be, are a huge part of it. My family, um, friends, people that are close to me. But this sounds really ridiculous, but we won the league on Sunday. Um, had a really long season. I carried on coaching the team when my daughter stopped playing, carried on because it gave me purpose
Mm,
to coach them, to train them, and seeing
Nice.
them winning the league and the parents being so happy and the kids being so happy. Like I was probably more nervous as a coach than what I've ever been as a player. But it was like
mm,
seeing them invest in myself and my fellow coach
yeah.
Nice.
was absolutely brilliant. And to come away from a long season where, it's cold, it's wet, you travel, you do all these things, it took me back to when it made me realize like what my parents did for me when I was a kid and they traveled everywhere. And I was always appreciative. And I appreciate that more now that
Mm,
I'm a parent and I've witnessed it with my daughter. But even though my daughter wasn't involved, she played a part in that season, which was great. And she played her part by scoring goals, getting assists, and being brilliant in the games that she did play. But to see those girls get over the line was a real proud moment. And the stupid thing about it is they don't realize how much they've helped me being
Mm,
part of that to give me a purpose on a Monday night at training and then a
nice.
game. Obviously, when I had my daughter, I didn't go to the games, but because it was every other weekend. But I that was really big to me. But then the work that I'm doing with dads and stuff gives me purpose, gives me positivity to like I said, I'm down in Cardiff tomorrow. That's something to look forward to. Quite apprehensive, of course, because you're in front of a lot of people,
mm,
but it's something that I've always been passionate about since doing it. So, yeah, you've the power of positivity, guys. Whatever life throws at us.
Oh,
So I
wow.
use Susan Jeffries, the book that I read, Face the Fear and Do It Anyway, and
mm,
the three words, I'll handle it.
mm.
That is what I always talk about. You will handle it. You'll come through it. You're more resilient than you believe. So that's a positive thing in itself.
Wow. Love it. Okay. Well, I'm just trying to think. I've been very lucky as well. This week, my parents have been down in Barry and they've just been helping around the house, just doing lots of small little things around the house and helping with the kids. And I am very appreciative of their hard work.
Lovely. So,
Thank you.
thank you very much, diolch yn fawr. Jacob, for coming on. Thanks for tuning in, all our listeners, to
It's been a
our.
blast, Jacob. Thank
It
you.
No,
has.
thanks, guys. I
Yeah,
appreciate it. Keep up
really,
the
really.
amazing work as well, guys. Thanks for letting me be a part of it. Really
It's good
appreciate
to
it.
have you.
Yeah,
Not a
really
problem.
appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. Yeah, for the listeners, if you enjoyed, please subscribe, leave a review, share it with your fellow parents. We'll be back next week with more stories, laughs, and honest chats. Until there, take care and keep that positivity going, no matter your situation. No star.
Bye.